Alright troops, it's your man Chris Scullion from TyrolHack.com here. Nintendo have just announced the first details of its online service for the Switch, which has the cunning title Nintendo Switch Online. There you go. As people expected, it'll give you give you access to online multiplayer and online chat, albeit through its odd smartphone app, and have stuff like cloud saves and stuff like that. But the important thing for retro gamers such as myself is that when it launches, it will have a library called Nintendo Entertainment System Nintendo Switch Online, which will essentially mean at launch it'll have 20 NES games, with more to be added, and who knows what will come down the line. Maybe they'll add the SNES and N64, etc. So yeah, exciting times for oldies like me. But yeah, there we go. So that's NES games. There's loads coming. 10 have been confirmed so far. There are 20 at launch, but Nintendo have just announced the first 10. Some of these games are well over 30 years old, so there's a good chance some of you young bucks might need a wee bit of a refresher on what they're all about. It's just totally understandable. Like, some of these games are frankly ancient, and although they've been on Virtual Console, on the Wii and the Wii U and 3DS in the past, not everyone's bought them because they were quite a high price for some people. Sometimes they were like £4.50 for a time, and for some people that was a bit of a gamble for a really old game that they might not have played before. But now that they're like, you're talking 20 quid a year and you're getting access to a load of them, people might be finally willing to try them for the first time because there's not really much to lose. So yeah, some of you might be thinking, oh, okay, well, what are they all about? Because I am but a young child slash teenager slash 20 something and wasn't there when these games first came out, and they kind of passed me by, so I'd like to know what is coming my way. And that is where your man Scullion comes in, because I'm not just some young buck who looks these games up on Wikipedia and pretends to know what I'm talking about. I lived it. Here is photographic proof of me living it. That was Halloween, honest. So yeah, the NES is one of my favourite systems of all time, and I know my stuff here, so don't worry, I will be your guide through these games. So let us get cracking. We'll do these just now, and if Nintendo announce the other 10 before launch in one go, then we'll do the follow-up video to this, and we'll do the other 10. But for now, here's the 10 that we know about in alphabetical order, so there's no favouritism. Okay, first up is Balloon Fight. This was a game that was programmed by Satoru Iwata, the late and very great Satoru Iwata. One of the first things he did for the Nintendo, for the Famicom, was he programmed a version of Joust, which was like a Midway Williams arcade game. And in a way, Balloon Fight is quite similar to Joust. Joust had you kind of riding ostriches and bumping into other people on ostriches and trying to knock them off the platforms. And Balloon Fight is similar, only you're floating about in balloons instead, and the aim is to pop enemy balloons and knock them into the sea. You pop them once. You can pop them before the level starts, before they have the chance to inflate their balloons. And then once their balloons have inflated, then the task is to kind of get above them, bump into their balloons to pop them, and then when they land on the floor, before they can inflate new balloons, fly over to them and knock them off the platform. Very harsh, but such is life, folks. It's also got a balloon trip mode, which is a kind of side-scrolling from right to left, which is odd instead of left to right. Side-scrolling kind of high-score endless mode where you collect as many balloons as you can. If you collect a certain number in a row, they change colour and you get more points. So the aim is not just to survive and collect balloons to get your point up, but to get your points up, but also to try and not miss any, because if you can collect a load of them consecutively, your score will rack up massively. It's not been confirmed yet whether Switch Online is going to have online leaderboards, which would be really useful for something like Balloon Trip. A lot of these old games, the emphasis was on not necessarily beating the game, but getting a high score, because this is still from the arcade. People were still very much in the arcades era at this point, where the aim was to get the highest score, and we'll see that more clearly with the next game. But Balloon Trip, in its essence, is just a high score mode. You just go forever until you die and then see what your score is. So hopefully these NES Nintendo Switch Online games will have some sort of online leaderboards as well, so you can compare your score with others. If it doesn't, It at least has a 2-player co-op mode, so you and a friend can kind of go online and do the, not the balloon trip, but the normal mode together and try and take enemies out, which is quite cool. It's quite good fun. Up next is Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong, which kind of gave birth to Mario, or Jumpman as he was called in the arcade version, but by this point, by the time he got to the NES, he was Mario. So there's no confusion there this time. It is an incredibly short game. Again, this is an arcade game. It wasn't designed to last 20 hours, like be a 20-hour epic. This is a massively short game. It's so short, in fact, that by the time I'm finished this spiel, the game you are watching on TV, on your screen just now, I will finish the entire game while I'm talking about it here, and actually probably start playing through it again. So yeah, because it's so short, it's all about the high scores. There are 3 stages in this version. The normal kind of construction site bit where you just go up the slopes. Then there's a bit where there's lifts going up and down, and you've got to reach the top while Donkey Kong throws jumping jack things at you. And then the final stage where you've got to remove the floor to make Donkey Kong kind of plummet to his death. And that's it. There was a 4th level in the arcades, which people called the Pie Factory because it looked like there's loads of pies on conveyor belts, but it was actually cement getting laid. But that's not in this game just because of the limitations of the cartridge at the time. But the Nintendo did release a version called Donkey Kong Original Edition, which is basically a hack of the NES original, which added the 4th level and a couple other animations. And they kind of included that with they did the special edition Red Wii's in Europe. Only came out in Europe, and it had that included with it, and then later they brought it out on the 3DS eShop. So it'll be interesting to see whether it's the NES original Donkey Kong you get, or this updated Donkey Kong Original Edition with the 4th level added. It'll also be interesting to see whether it has the weird glitch that not a hell of a lot of people know about, but I obviously know about it because I'm just about to do it here. There's a glitch in the first level where if you stand at just the right pixel, you can press down at the end of the first kind of row and basically climb down to the top of the stage, if that makes sense. Which is weird, but presumably that will still be in it. So that's a fun one to try out. Up next is Dr. Mario, a puzzle game starring none other than Mario, obviously. This is a kind of colour matching puzzler, so you get pieces of pills drop down, and they're made of 2 different colours, either red, blue or yellow, and the aim is to match 4 of the same colour to make them disappear. The twist is that there are viruses in this bottle. It's basically a bottle full of viruses, and you're dropping these pills in to try and kill them all. So if your match of 4 or more colours includes a virus, that virus gets knocked out, and the aim is to clear keep going until you've cleared all the viruses from the bottle, at which point you move on to the next stage. It starts really basic, but as you can see here, this is level 20, and it gets absolutely manic and frantic to the point that you really need to concentrate to get it cleared, which is, it's quite stressful, but it's fun. More importantly for this one, it has a 2-player kind of versus mode, which should be great in online multiplayer. Dr. Mario on WiiWare, Dr. Mario versus Germbuster, I think it was called, but it had different names, maybe Dr. Mario RX or something in different regions. To my money, it was the best multiplayer game on the Wii. I played that for ages, and my mum still plays it to this day. Actually, there's still people online playing Dr. Mario on WiiWare, and my mum still does it. She's an absolute demon at it. So although the NES version isn't quite as complex, it will still be a fun multiplayer game, and it should be interesting to see how many people go online with that one. It's a favourite of mine, so that'll be good. Then there's Ice Climber. If you're not familiar with this game entirely, you'll probably still be familiar with the Ice Climbers themselves because they've been in a couple of Smash Brothers games, Nana and Popo. Or should I say Popo and Nana, because player 1 is Popo, who's the male, and if player 2 joins in, they play as Nana, who's the female Ice Climber, and the 2 of them have to make their way basically to the top of a load of mountains. Each stage is a different mountain, and you do that by jumping up and kind of chipping holes in the ice above you, and then jumping through. When you get to the top, there's like a bonus stage where you have to collect loads of different vegetables, and then there's like a big bird flying, a condor I believe they call it, flying right at the very top, and if you can hit that, then you get bonus stuff. it's an awkward one. It's a very difficult game to get used to. This is still very early days of platforming, so Nintendo and other developers were still kind of trying to find their feet and basically experiment with different jumping styles. And the jumping in Ice Climber is very awkward because it's an almost entirely vertical jump, and even when you're running at full pelt, when you jump, it's really high and doesn't have a lot of distance to it, so it can lead to some really awkward moments, and takes a lot of getting used to, especially if you're used to playing other platformers a lot. But yeah, once you get the hang of it, especially in co-op, it's decent fun. It's not the best game on here by a long shot, but it's okay. It'll be interesting to see if you can swap between each version, or if playing with a Japanese account unlocks the Japanese one, because the version on the Famicom, which was the Japanese NES, had seals as enemies instead of the kind of white Yeti things you can see here. Obviously they were changed for the West because the idea of clubbing seals didn't really go down too well, so it'll be interesting to see if the seals feature here, but we'll see. Up next is The Legend of Zelda, an absolute stone cold classic. The story in this one, for those who don't know, Princess Zelda has been kidnapped by Ganon. This is pre-Ganondorf, which is when he was still like a big pig thing. But before she gets captured, she takes the Triforce of Wisdom and splits it into 8 different pieces, and gets Impa, like her servant, to go and put a piece in a different dungeon. So there's 8 different dungeons in Hyrule that have each got a piece of the Triforce of Wisdom in it. So it's up to Link to find each of the dungeons, beat the kind of boss, collect all 8 pieces of Triforce of Wisdom, so then he can go to Death Mountain, fight Ganon, kick his arse, all that kind of stuff. Fun times. This one had a really big focus on exploration. This is like one of the early big kind of proper adventure games in the NES, and while in later games, just as gaming itself evolved, there was more hand holding. In this one you're pretty much on your own, so there's a lot of kind of endless wandering about, almost kind of like Breath of the Wild tried to do, but even Breath of the Wild still had some more direction to it. Like you could see the big towers in the distance, and you even if you didn't know where to go, you could roughly kind of decide, I'm going to start with that at least and get up one of those and see where I'm going. Legend of Zelda just kind of dumps you in this large area and says, right, figure it out, and you've got to figure out where the dungeons are and stuff like that. There's plenty of walkthroughs these days to make it more accessible to a modern audience, so it's still, don't worry about struggling with it. There's plenty of guides online to help you kind of find your feet at first. But this is a great game. Once you get in it, it's pretty difficult nowadays, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually be better than you probably think it is, given its age. It's definitely worth trying out and sticking with it, because you'll be frustrated at first by how difficult it is, but stick with it because it's fun. Mario Brothers next. Not Super Mario Brothers. Cam your ham, that one's coming, but for now just Mario Brothers. This was the arcade game that came out shortly after Donkey Kong Jr., where Mario got his own kind of starring role for the first time. And this is one of the few games where he doesn't quite do plumbing, but he sort of does, because he's down in the sewers and he's got to clear the sewers of enemies, so it's the only kind of plumbing-esque game that you're getting Mario in. This is also the debut of Luigi, because he appears in the 2-player co-op mode. It's also the debut of the POW block, but nobody really cares about that. I mean, there was a year of Luigi, but there was never a year of the POW block, which is a shame. The aim here is to defeat all the enemies on the screen, but unlike in Super Mario Brothers, which obviously came later, you can't jump on their heads. That came with Super Mario Bros. Before then, that wasn't a thing. If you jump on the enemies' heads here, you die. The only way you can beat them is to hit them from underneath, and that flips them over. And then you run over to them and kind of run into them to kick them off the screen. Kind of like Balloon Fight, but instead of hitting their balloons, you're knocking them over and tipping them over instead. This is also get kind of awkward jumping mechanics, a bit like Ice Climber, but it's not as annoying because it's not life or death. Like if you miss a jump, you don't fall to your doom like you do in Ice Climber. But it's pretty obvious that Nintendo knew it was awkward in the bonus stages. There's bonus stages after you clear so many levels where you basically just have to collect all the coins on the stage before time runs out. Now when your bonus stage is, when you've got a bonus stage and the task is just navigate the level without any enemies, then you know that they know there's a problem with the controls, and you just need to kind of grin and bear it. So half the time you're fighting the controls rather than fighting enemies. But it's fine. It's fun enough. It's still quite compelling despite its age. It's also got a really good 2-player co-op mode, so that's another one that will be playable online, you would imagine. So that'll be fun. That might give it a new lease of life and get people to notice it a bit more. Up next is the dark horse in this initial batch of 10, which is soccer. The soccer, a lot of people just kind of dismiss soccer, which is fine. I get it. It's the most basic title for a game, soccer, nothing else. I get it, and it's by modern standards. It's no FIFA, it's no Pro Evo. It's pretty prehistoric, but I still really like it, and I still play it every now and then. And in multiplayer, it's actually surprisingly really good fun to this day. Because the ball is quite loose, you can tackle. There's no tackle button. Every time your guy runs, he just kind of kicks the ball in front of him, kicks it in front of him, kicks it in front of him, and you can kind of maneuver your player in front of him and get in the way, and just kind of intercept the ball really easily, which sounds daft, but actually it's great fun because you're going back and forth at all times. It's brilliant. Passing is also really slow, but in a good way. So when you do a big long lob to pass to someone, both players have got time to get into position and jostle for position and try. So someone can do a big long ball, but you can run in between and intercept it, and it's really satisfying. And shooting's actually really good as well. If you hold down, you don't need to hold down the shoot button, but as you're running, there's an arrow in the goals, and anytime you press up and down, the arrow moves up and down. So you're kind of controlling the arrow at the same time as controlling your player, and then when you hold the shoot button, it'll shoot the ball in the exact direction where the arrow is, so you can really aim your shots, which is quite a really nice touch for a game that age. I still like soccer. Not a lot of people do, to be fair, so I'm maybe different and don't get too excited just because I like it. But with online multiplayer, I think this could be a dark horse. I think this could develop a bit of a new cult following. It's not going to have millions of people playing it, but I think there'll be a few people who go. I think you'll see some talk on Twitter from folks saying, "Have you tried soccer online against people? Because it's actually a good laugh." So yeah, you heard it here first. So soccer might surprise you. Then there is Super Mario Brothers, which, for those who don't know me, to this day is still my favourite game of all time. If I was on a desert island, Super Mario Bros. Is the one game that I would take with me. I have, without a word of a lie, since I got this at the age of 4.5, I have played this game at least once a week for my entire life in various different versions, be that the NES version, Super Mario All-Stars on the SNES, the Game Boy Color version, the NES re-release on the Game Boy Advance, the Wii Virtual Console, the Wii U Virtual Console, the 3DS Virtual Console. I buy this game in every form it's released because it is my favourite game of all time. It's just so, the weight to it feels fine, it feels great. The later Mario games have had slightly different weights and slightly different physics to them, but to me the original Super Mario Bros. Gets it just right. All the secrets that were in it were mind blown at the time. It's still just so satisfying to play. This is the game I'll play most out of all of these, just because that's just my life. I do that every week. That won't stop anytime soon. So this is the one. It's a no-brainer. Obviously Nintendo was going to include Super Mario Brothers, and I'm delighted it'll be their day one because that's the one that I want, basically. At the risk of sounding like John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. So yeah, Super Mario Bros. Incredible game, iconic, one of the greatest ever made. Kind of goes without saying. Same as Super Mario Bros. 3. The majority of people prefer this to the first one, so that's fine. I personally don't. It's still a phenomenal game. Let's not beat about the bush. I just always felt it was a wee bit too floaty. Not too floaty, but more floaty than Super Mario Brothers, and I prefer it. I just prefer Mario's jumping to be a wee bit heavier, but that's the ultimate nitpick. And Super Mario Bros. 3 is still an absolutely incredible game. Totally turned the platforming genre on its head, and introducing so many things. Yeah, daft kind of outfits for Mario to wear, like a frog suit and stuff like that. A couple of sneaky wee infinite one-up tricks like this one, where you can just keep floating down and rack up a load of one-ups. It's just an enormous game for its age, and one that when you play it today, it still really holds up well. It's just fantastic, and anyone who, you've got to imagine the vast majority of people keen to play these NES games will have already played Super Mario Bros. 3 by now, but if you haven't, you are in for a treat. Yeah, I'm almost jealous of some people who haven't played it yet, so let me know in the comments in this video if you haven't played either Super Mario Bros. Or Super Mario Bros. 3 yet, so I can be jealous in person. But yeah, fun times. And then finally there's tennis, which is awkward that I'm doing this in alphabetical order because tennis is easily the weakest of the 10 games here. Mainly because partly because it's so basic, but mainly because it's really difficult to accurately hit the ball without a lot of practice. It's not like modern tennis games where you hold the direction as you swing and that's the direction the ball goes in. It's actually more similar to tennis on Wii Sports, where the direction that the ball goes in depends on how early you swing it. Like if you swing it early, it'll go one direction, and if you swing it late, it'll go in the other direction. And also whether you hit the ball forehand or backhand, that all kind of determines what way the ball goes. So in theory, it's a good system, but it takes a hell of a lot of practice, and it's probably not worth the effort because all you can do is single exhibition games. Hopefully it seems like it'll have online multiplayer though, so that might make it better, because if every player's got the same kind of handicap with the kind of iffy controls, that might make it more tolerable, more bearable. But if you're playing single player against the computer, you're going to download this because you're going to download all 10 games, all 20 games when it launches. You'll try it for 2 minutes and then you'll remove it again and say, well, that wasn't good. This is the first one you'll delete, basically. But yeah, so there we go. That's the 10 games so far. 8 good ones, I would say. 1 bad one, tennis. And one that takes a bit of effort. It takes a bit of work. This being an ice climber. But some people will like it. Well, some people will like the payoff eventually. But certainly 8 of the 10. I'm immediately excited for, and it's good times. So yeah, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that helped illuminate, elucidate, entertain, and educate. And hopefully, if Nintendo announce the other 10 games before September, let me know if you want me to do another video, and I'll do another video just like this, so you can see what they're like. Until then, please do the usual YouTube shenanigans, like and subscribe and do all that stuff. I'll have similar videos to this ready soon. Sega's got a Mega Drive collection coming at the end of the month, and I'm planning to do the same sort of thing for that. And that'll be a much bigger and much longer video, so keep an eye out for that one if you like this sort of thing. But yeah, until then, please do visit TyroHack.com for more gaming goodness. Keep an eye on this YouTube channel for more retro videos. There'll be a lot of retro stuff coming very soon. And thanks for watching. Catch you on the flip flop later. Cheers guys, bye bye.